Welcome to the Vine Resources Podcast Show. Welcome to another edition of the Vine Resources Podcast Show. I'm David Lawrence and I'm delighted today to have with us Dana Tobak. Dana is the founder and managing director of Hyperoptic. Dana, thanks for joining us.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
And I'm very lucky to be in your office in Hammersmith in central London. Dana, could you share with our listeners a little bit about the company, please?
Absolutely. Hyperoptic was founded in 2011 with the distinct purpose of bringing gigabit fibre to the UK. We focus on urban areas. We're mainly known at the moment for doing large residential blocks, but we're expanding our addressable markets to be in a position where we can offer 5 million homes passed by 2025. We're considered an alternative network, AltNet, which early days the AltNets were considered to be just small niche players, and now with our being the leader gigabit provider, essentially we're picking up steam and we're really getting the attention of government, of Ofcom, and of course the big telecoms providers here in the UK.
Fantastic. Thanks for that introduction. And as a customer myself of Hyperoptic, I know how fast the service is, and I know how desperate I went from 1 meg in central London at the time to 1,000 megs. So amazing, really. We're going to jump into the questions if that's okay with you. So I'd love to share with our listeners, now with a company of over 600 employees and growing super fast across the UK, what does a typical day in the business look like for you as the leader?
Well, the first thing I would say is there probably is not a typical day. In the sense that every day is different. Obviously, I spend a lot of time meeting with people. That can be internal people, external people. I try to organize my time so there'll be days where I focus on more of the future and the strategy, and then days where I'm doing my one-to-ones, where I'm meeting with teams, or I'm diving into particular issues or challenges that we have and doing problem solving. And I just really enjoy working across the business to help put us on the right trajectory for the future.
Fantastic. And look, thinking about your experience over the years, has anyone influenced you, perhaps even been a mentor to you and impacted you as a leader? And can you share that with us?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question. And I know a lot of people tend to reel off very famous, well-known people in business lingo and having read a book. I think that for me, my past before Hyperoptic, I was at Oracle and I was at Sapient, and I had the brilliant opportunities to work with some great people. Keith Block, who is now COO of Salesforce, was my original manager when I joined Hyperoptic, and Alan at Sapient was also my key project manager back in the days at Sapient, and of course now he's leading Sapient Publicis. So for me, there's that aspect of people that as I grew my career were in the sights for me and mentoring me on a day-to-day basis. But one of the key things is having my business partner, my co-founder, Boris Ivanovich. We've been working together since 2005. And in essence, what works so well about the company and the trajectory that we're on is a balance between, we're not the same person, but we are absolutely dedicated to the company. He keeps pushing us, I would say, to be more and more aggressive. I keep making it happen, and these are the things that really work. So it creates a balance in how we're able to move the company in the right direction and make the right decisions and consider whether or not the path they're on, the decisions we're on are working well. So that's really the balance that works well for us.
Now you've grown from only, I think, two employees obviously in the start to now, as I said earlier, over 600 employees. How are you engaging your employees from the top to ensure the success of the business?
Yeah, that's something that we challenge ourselves, and it's not something that we have perfected yet. We do quarterly what we call pulse surveys. We try to be really good about following up. We are also doing more communications across the offices. So I fly out to our Belgrade office once a quarter, if not more often. And basically also trying to get out once a quarter into the field and meet with the various management teams and field engineers. We do company meetings as well. And most recently, I've started a regular comms update to the entire company so that there creates that momentum around making sure people are connected to the vision.
Fantastic. And, what do you believe? Obviously, the industry, and as you mentioned earlier, as a Hyperoptic being a an alternative for customers. So what do you believe is the biggest challenge facing business leaders today in running the businesses?
I think the biggest challenge has to be keeping not just relevant, but ensuring that we think about what customers will want in the future and we drive to that. I think we have to recognize it takes time to evolve a company, it takes time to grow, and in all those things, we can't only look at the insights we have today about our current customers, but where do we want to go and what do we need? The other thing, and I think, of course, Steve Jobs is the perfect example, it's not about the focus group. If you ask people 5 years ago, do they need a gig? They would have said, no, what are you even talking about? So it's about just making it happen. I mean, we had a lot of naysayers early days that said, oh, well, if you're only offering broadband and telephone, you won't be able to build a business. Meanwhile, within a year of going live in a building, we tend to have about 30% take up. So I think we've proven that bundles are important for people who don't have differentiators on a broadband product, but we do have a differentiator. We do have great customer service. We have a gig. So people that really fundamentally value connectivity, and more people are finding themselves on kind of that side of how important is broadband to your day-to-day life, the more important it is for them to have great service. And that's what we deliver. So we just try to make an excellent service. We do what we say, and that is the fundamental driver for who we are.
What's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
I think there are a few things that I try to constantly keep in mind as we make decisions across the company and build our strategy. One is think of the long term. So what are we trying to achieve in the long term? And recognize that as long as we keep facing in that direction, as long as we make steps in that direction, then we're moving properly. The other thing is top down and bottom up. So it's just as important to have a top-down strategy that's logical, but you also need to understand the bottom-up details of a company. You need to understand how things actually work. You need to spend time with the people on the ground, because it's very easy to build a strategy that isn't deployable. Yep. Or certainly not deployable with the current infrastructure, process, and teams that you have in place. So you need to marry both the detail of creating a business plan and the top-down approach to a strategy. Without doing both those things, one of them will fail. If you're only focused on the detail, you won't make it in the right direction. If you're only focused on the top end, you'll fail in your execution.
That's great advice there. And Dana, what do you do to help new employees, or what does the business do to help new employees understand the culture of the company?
So our culture is fundamentally on an acronym, RISE, which is spelled R-I-Z-E, which stands for responsibility, intelligence, zeal, and excellence. And everything we do is around those values of the company. So as part of the hiring process, we talk to people about the importance of their behaviors and their commitment to their peers, their managers, and our customers. As part of our induction process, I talk about it with employees, and as part of our performance management as well. So we really embed it in everything we do. You won't see it on the walls of our company. You won't see it on mouse pads or t-shirts. It's just who we are and what we do, what we anticipate of each other. We have RISE awards where we really single out people who have demonstrated these values. Yep. These are both publicly oriented in terms of taking feedback from customers, and internally oriented. And that is what builds our culture. We're also trying to do some really neat things in terms of scaling our inductions. For the most part, our inductions up until a few months ago have been relatively individualized as new managers come on board. So we're adding, virtual reality, escape room games, videos, so lots of different things to the induction process to not only bring the culture to life, but bring the future to life, and not take doing things the way we used to do them as the right way forward.
What's the one mistake you witness leaders making more frequently than others?
Being unwilling to admit a mistake. I think the most important thing is being able to put your ego aside for a minute and figure out the places where either you as an individual have made a mistake or an organization has made a mistake, and we have to fix it, and you have to learn from it. So the inability to accept a mistake means that the company can't improve, the company can't get to a better place. So a lot of people find it difficult to admit when something's gone wrong. And one of the things I do with my leadership team is make them stand up in front of their peers and talk about a mistake that they've made. Some people find it easier than others, but it's really important to being a leader is that self-awareness and that willingness to accept and really face those mistakes and how we need to improve upon our decision making moving forward.
And following that, what have you seen as perhaps a behaviour or a trait that's derailed more leaders' careers?
I think for the most part, it would be about not looking far enough ahead. So I think what tends to happen in the same way I talked about top down and bottom up is people tend to feel comfortable looking out a certain distance. So be it end of the quarter, end of the year, 5 years out. And I think the trait of a true leader is being able to shift between those horizons and also challenge ourselves to understand which horizon is more important. And it's different by company. You know, public companies, the quarterly may be important from the long term, where we need to distinguish between the long-term goals and the short-term goals. For a private company, of course, you have your shareholders, you have your employees, you have the public. So understanding and being able to pick between these different horizons and make logical decisions around which things you're doing for which horizon is important. And I think if you become focused only on one, which is typically people are in their comfort zone of where they like to think out, then again, something will be missed.
Now, I know back in 2013, you had investment from George Soros's quantum fund, quantum sovereign fund, I believe. Obviously, at that point, they could see that there was the future was bright for this industry and this business, of course. How do you see now, though, the next 5 years? What do you see as the industry changing? And also from an employee point of view, how do you see that affecting your ability to attract and perhaps retain the right talent?
So lots of questions embedded in one. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So Soros invested with us in the Quantum Strategic Partners through that fund, and in 2013. And what's been really amazing about them as a partners is they have been strategic. They are involved in the long run, but they also support the employees and the management of the company in order to reach that goal. So they're not picking on the specific details of the day-to-day. They want to make sure that we're looking at the long term and thinking about long-term value. In the last couple of years, we've taken on debt financing as well. So we had 2 years ago 25 million euros from the European Investment Bank. Last year it was 100 million from a consortia of 4 banks, and this year we've upped to 250 million with the same 4 banks, but plus an additional 4 banks. So clearly there's a lot of confidence in what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that relates to your question about the future and how we see that growth and how that relates to future talent. I mean, obviously, bringing on 250 million pounds gives us a freedom that we didn't have for early days to attract talent, to grow. And the benefit that you have as a growing company is you have the opportunity to offer opportunity to people that join. So often in large companies where there isn't the growth, it's very difficult for people to learn new skills and move ahead. Here with a young company, we welcome people with the right attitude, skill set, etc. And we train them and give them opportunities to, whether it's take on management and leadership positions, whether it's try something new as we try something new. So the opportunity is there. Of course, as we grow, and we become a company, we announced that we're going to be adding at least 1,000 engineers to the pool. So we're growing as a company, and with that, we need to also bring in people who have experience in running large companies. And the benefit is that with the success that we've had, with the excitement of our goals and our future and the shareholders that we have on board, it's actually been fairly... What's what I'm looking for. It's just amazing how many people have been interested in joining us. So I think early days when Hyperoptic wasn't known, it's more difficult, I think, to attract people who see themselves as larger company people and very experienced. As we grow, we're able to do that. And we see some amazing talent joining the organization, building, augmenting what we're doing, and giving us the opportunity to get on that aggressive trajectory that we set ourselves as a target.
Fantastic. And look, if you were looking back now and giving your 20-year-old self advice, and hindsight's always a wonderful thing, of course, but if you were giving yourself advice, What's the one thing that you would tell yourself now?
I think what was interesting about my career growth from 20 to today is that I never actually had a plan, in the sense of I never sat down and said, this is what I want to be doing in 5 years. So I was pretty pleased that I never got that question in any interview that I was in. And for me, it's been about just doing the best job that I can do, always keeping a lookout for opportunity and actually getting excited by the big challenges. When Boris and I had the chat back in 2004 about my running a broadband company, I mean, I'd never started a company on my own at that point, and I certainly was not a broadband expert by any stretch, but I took the leap. The other thing which has worked so well is keeping networks together. I think it sounds obvious, and I don't mean networking for the sake of building up 1,000 people in your LinkedIn profile. I mean truly connecting with people and keeping those connections over time and valuing, the teams and the contributions that you've made and the professional experiences that you've had, maybe even personal experiences. And that has always amazed me and served me well. I mean, Boris and I went to university together. Our former chief sales officer was at university with us. And, if you had told us those numbers of years ago that we would in fact be running a broadband company together, that would have just been completely unknown. So I don't have any specific advice other than to say there's a lot of things that I felt my general attitude brought that put me in the position I am today, which is take advantage of opportunity, don't burn bridges, and just keep your eyes open.
There's some great advice there. and I'm sure there's some nuggets that have come in from that conversation. I could hear it myself. Dana, thank you so much for sharing that with us today. I'm really grateful for your time. What's the best way for people, if they want to find out more about Hyperoptic or connect with you, what's the best way they can get in touch?
Well, I would say if it's about Hyperoptic, go to the website, look out at what's happening in Google, sign up to register your interest. We send out updates all the time. If it's for me personally, reach out on LinkedIn.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.